I started cooking on social media because I wanted to connect with the outside world and because I was going crazy. And I wasn't going to teach makeup because we're not going anywhere. And I
Mm-hmm.
really had I'm like, I'm not going to be wasting my makeup. So
Yeah, yeah.
I taught what I was doing. But at the time I was also going through a very financial hardship because my husband had been out of work due to his health. And so here is our income is gone. The world is shut down. We don't qualify for any type of assistance whatsoever because, quote unquote, I made too much. And
Right.
it was just insane. It was insane. And I remember the last $35 that I had to my name, I used to go and buy the food that I cooked on the very day that I turned on my camera for the first time and said, "Does anybody want to cook with me?"
Oh my gracious.
Even back in high school, Jennifer inspired more than
Él cambia la imagen por vender bitcoins.
Come on, shake your body, baby, do that conga.
Me too.
I'm
Finally,
so,
we finally made this happen. Dios
yes.
mío.
I know we've been back and forth for some time, but we're here. Welcome
We're
to
here.
Growing Up Latina.
Woo! Let's
Oh
go.
my God, we have Omi on the show. And I always tell people, like, because everyone's always asking me, well, how do you know who's your next guest? I'm like, you guys tell me. So literally, my audience has told me, make sure you put her on the show. I'm like, okay, guys,
Wow.
okay. So you're on, and I'm so super excited. Food is my love language. So,
Mine too.
and and your energy, yo, I was watching your stories today, and you're just so like happy and vibrant. And it's May. What's going on? It's May 1st. I'm like, period. I love that.
Some Sometimes you just gotta be your own encourager. You gotta be your biggest encourager every single day, even when you don't want to. I
I
promise
love
you,
that.
it's the best thing.
Yes. So I want to start off with the Sala. So season two is all about Sala vibes. And I want to know, what was the Sala like for you? What novelas were you watching? What
Oh
music were
my
you
god.
listening to?
Oh my gosh. La sala para mí era la sala que más yo adoro. La
Mm,
sala que yo más me acuerdo de ella. Like I can literally close my eyes and I could be there right now. Es la sala de mi abuelita. Watching Don Francisco, Sábado Gigante on a Saturday from 5 o'clock till 10 p.m.
yes.
and sharing food, que si un cafecito, que si un postre, la familia entera. There would always be so much movement in the sala. Like there was always something going on,
Yes.
and then there was multiple conversations happening at the same time, and
Right.
somehow everybody knew exactly what was going on. It was hilarious, but it was the best time. It was one of my best times. I loved my grandmother's sala. It was where everyone gathered. Si no estaban ahí, estaban en la marquesina, one of the two.
Yes.
So la
Yes.
sala was where the party was at. Novelas, La Usurpadora.
Oh my God, that
Do
was
you
literally
remember
my
La
favorite
Usurpadora?
show. Oh my God. That was,
Oh,
I had that on, like, we would literally record that show.
yes,
Oh
yes.
my
La
God.
Usurpadora,
I love that show.
Marimar, Marimar.
Yes. I
Costeñita
was watching
soy.
Luz Clarita. I was watching Maria
Yes,
del Barrio. Like, yes. Damn,
yes,
you took
all
it
of it,
back with La
all of it.
Supadora.
La
Yes.
Usurpadora. And what were we doing? Oh my gosh. So this is, listen, Shakira is funny because today I was working out to her. But Shakira has been a part of my youth, which is insane. Like she's been
Yeah.
around for a hot minute. Um I feel like people don't appreciate her as much, but honestly, I remember recording cassettes with my
Uh-huh.
cousins when Shakira's album came out. Like, you're like trying to
Yes.
record the cassette.
Mm-hmm.
And then just being outside and, doing girly stuff all the time, que si pintándolo las uñas, doing our
Mm-hmm.
hair. Like we would be outside hasta que empezaba a llover. Empezaba a llover and everybody was scrambling to go inside.
Yeah.
But it was the best.
Tell me your family. Like, do you have a big family? Like, what was that like? Brothers,
I
sisters?
have a I have a really big family, and then on top of having a big family, I was always in two different households, right? Because my parents, I grew up in a divorced household. My parents divorced when I was 2, and so
Okay.
I always would spend, the weeks with my mom, the weekends with my dad, and his family over there, my mom's family over here, and like it was always uh um not a double life. It definitely wasn't a double life. It was just kind of like a split life where I'm like,
Right.
okay, so this weekend I have to do X, Y, and Z. This during the week I have to go da 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 da. So,
Mm-hmm.
but overall, it was a beautiful way to grow up because it taught me so much about people. Like
Mm-hmm.
I dealt with every kind of person you can imagine in terms of their personalities and attitudes and quirkiness and like just the way that they would express themselves. Maybe this one, like all the cooks are in my mom's side of the family. All the cooks are over there.
Yeah.
All
Mm-hmm.
the like todos los que hacen cosas con sus manos and like
Mm-hmm.
work with their hands are my dad's side. Like it was very much that way. Tengo
Mm-hmm.
más tías que tíos. I have way more aunts than I
Mm-hmm.
do uncles.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, the uncles by marriage, we love them, but
Mm-hmm.
they're different.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it was amazing.
What were you like in school?
Oh my
What was
God.
baby on me like?
Listen, I joke around with this, but it's not a joke. This is a real talk, real moment here. I've
What's that?
literally had to go to therapy for this because it wasn't the easiest. My mom being a single mom, we moved a
Mm-hmm.
lot. I went to 7 different
Mm-hmm.
schools by the
Mm-hmm.
time I got to 5th grade. By the time I got to 5th grade, I had been in 7 different schools. So
Wow.
think about that for a second, right? Like
Wow.
3rd grade, I was in 3 schools, like 3 schools. I was in school in Daguao, Puerto Rico, in
Mm-hmm.
Connecticut, from Puerto Rico to Connecticut, from
Mm-hmm.
Connecticut back to Puerto Rico, and Canoas. So like it was like boom, boom, boom. And I remember
Yeah.
being like a really shy kid, being very I didn't I was never able to find my place. I knew that there was
So
always
you
so
was like
much
an
inside of
introvert.
me. No, I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't. I wasn't. I was guarded because I was so nervous into new
Right.
environments. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't an introvert. I've always been an extrovert.
Okay.
And
Okay.
when we came from Puerto Rico here to the US, I started in the 6th grade. I started here in the US, and thank God, in the city that we moved into in Rhode Island, we still moved a lot. We still moved a lot, but I didn't have to move schools, which was
Mm.
amazing because I was able to stay from 6th to 8th grade in one single middle school and then one single high school. Even though
Right.
we were moving all throughout the city. Um, so but it was hard. It was hard, and there were a lot of things, a
Yeah.
lot of moments missed, right? Like I missed a lot of important moments. 5th grade graduation, what's that? I don't know what that is. I don't know what you know, basic things that you're supposed to remember about elementary. I don't remember them. Like it's just son cosas que uno no se acuerda. You don't, and then
Did
you
you
kind of
have
make it
a
up.
quinceañera? Did you even have that
I
moment?
did have
You
a
did? Okay.
quinceañera. I did have a quinceañera.
Okay.
I grew up in the church.
Okay.
I grew up in a Pentecostal church.
Okay.
And when I tell you rajatabla, rajatabla,
Mm-hmm.
like I had to wear the skirts at school. That was a
Yep.
whole nother reason. That was another
Yep.
add-on. That was just like another, una rayita más to the
Yep.
to what was my awkwardness in school. The fact that
Mm-hmm.
I was also known as the church girl.
Yeah.
And so I I had the quinceañera, but I wasn't allowed to dance in it. There was no dancing involved. It was just,
Yep.
it was just,
Trust me,
it happened.
I know my dad's Pentecostal, so I know all about that. I grew up, you and I have similar stories. Like, I come from
Yeah.
divorced parents. My mom is Roman Catholic. My dad is Pentecostal. I stood with my dad every other weekend. So, imagínate.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, yeah. So it was,
yeah,
I mean, it was rough. It was rough. However, I would not trade it for the world. I would not trade it for the world. It taught me so much about so much in life. Like even who I am today, it really I incorporated in everything that I do. And even though at that time I was being forced to go because I wasn't, I had no choice, right? I was young and I had to go.
yeah,
Now as an adult, I know the importance of that. I know the importance of having that relationship and being able to pass that on to my kids, not in the same way, in a very different way. Like we still have conversations, but it's not so black and white, because nothing in life is ever black and white. But
right.
it's
Well, let me
it's
ask you, why did you feel like you had to go to therapy for that? Like, what did you feel like you were battling in that sense that you felt like, hey, maybe I do need to speak to someone about this?
because I there was a lot of neglect there. There was a lot of
Okay.
neglect, a lot of loneliness too, because I didn't have all my cousins. Out of all my aunts, all my titis and my cousins, none of my cousins were going through this. I was the only one. And so
Mm,
I
mm-hmm,
had no one else that I could relate to, or that could relate to me. And there were a lot
mm-hmm,
of life experiences that I didn't have or lacked because of so many moving parts of all the things that were going on in my life as a child that I had no control over. There's many moments when you look back as an adult and you're like, you start looking for pockets of unforgiveness and pockets of you're not complete here, and you need to figure out why you're not complete in this area. So you
mm-hmm,
have to go back and you have to heal from that in order to move forward.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. How does that then show up as an adult? Like, now you're an adult, you're married, you have kids. Like,
Your
how are
kids will be
you? Yeah.
your kids will be your biggest mirror. Your kids
Mm,
will be your biggest mirror every single time. I cannot even tell you. And then also my husband, right? My husband, we've been together 20 years,
oh my
and
God.
he
Congratulations, girl.
thank you.
I love that.
And I was the person who always said, I ain't never getting married. I'm like, absolutely not.
She's like, it's
Never
not for
getting
me.
married. I'm like, I am never putting another child through what I went through. Absolutely not. Like, no way. But my husband gave me no choice. Like, literally gave me no choice. The man was just a whole godsend, and has been in my
Oh,
life ever since. But even with him, he grew up in a very different household from mine. He had all the siblings. He had mom and dad in the household. He went to private school. Like, you know what I mean? Like, his mom was
right.
worked. His dad owned a business. Like, a very different childhood from mine. And even learning through him, and seeing that as an example, and then looking back at me, and not to say that I was the lesser, it was just showing me those pockets and those that reflection of like, oh, okay, so this is why I'm reacting on this here, because I didn't have this. And
Mm-hmm,
this is where I
mm-hmm.
got to go back and figure that out, right? It's very complex. When you get to an adult, I think the first thing we always say is we don't want to make the same mistakes our parents made. But
Yep,
when you don't know any better, you do
yep.
as you know. And if
Mm-hmm.
you don't educate yourself and you don't go through that healing process, what makes you think you are going to do any better than your parents? You're not. You're
Mm-hmm.
just gonna make the same mistakes. I even with the way that I see my mom, I absolutely adore my mom. And I cannot fault her for what she didn't know. She did the best she could with the information that she had at that time. So
Mm.
no matter how many mistakes she made, she wasn't perfect. Pero a mí nunca me faltó la comida, a mí nunca me faltó el amor, a mí nunca me faltó absolutamente nada. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? I had food
Mm-hmm.
on my back, I had a roof over my head, I was never on the street. A mí no me faltó nada, so I can't fault her for the things she didn't know, you know? So,
That's really powerful because I speak about this often on the show, like my dynamic with my mom, and anyone that knows me knows I do not play about mommy. Like I will take a bullet for my mom. She is my number one, two, and three. Like I have the ultimate love for her. But growing up, I didn't have that the way I feel now. Like I saw my mom always kind of working. So my mom wasn't able to do certain things. So for instance, my mom has her GED, right? So like growing up, she really wasn't able to help us with our homework. It was really like my older sister. And I just remember like feeling like, oh, my mom doesn't help me with my homework. But on the flip side, because my mom has her GED, she was so strict on like, no, all of my kids are going to college. I don't want to hear it. Like, this is what I want. Whoever doesn't want to go to college, you guys can't live with me. Period, point blank. That's it. And I didn't understand that growing up. Now, when I go into therapy and I do the healing, I now have this newfound respect for her. And I remember in my therapy session, I was just kind of like angry at her, and I remember telling my therapist, like, I'm so angry at my mother. And when I kind of broke down the levels, my therapist was like, no, like your mom is like a real superwoman. Like, do you not see that? So to your point, it's like the same thing that you're saying. Like, you just look at your mom differently as this person, like, yo, my mom held it down. My mom was the one that cooked for us. My mom was the one that was giving me those words of affirmation that I needed. And I
mhm.
know for you, now that you're a mom, I wonder, like, how are you treating your kids? Are you a strict mom? Are you like, what type of mom are you?
Girl, listen, I just had this conversation. Let me tell you the drama. Let me tell you the drama.
Tell me the
So,
tea.
I tell you, I gotta tell you the tea, girl. So, I have four boys, and one of my boys right now is going through girl trouble.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, okay, as a mom, I can sense it. He doesn't even have to say it. I can just sense it.
Yep.
And I can't tell you how. There's something innately in us that we're like, okay, something's off here. And it's not just about grades or sports or friends. Like, this is girl trouble. So he
Right.
comes home. This is today. Estamos hablando de hoy, okay? And I go, what? Hey, what's going on? Oh, I'm just gonna go upstairs. I don't feel like dealing with anything today. I'm like, okay. De repente yo lo veo que él vuelve y baja las escaleras y se va para afuera. He never
Hmm.
goes outside. He never sits out in the deck. Like that's like me and dad do that. Me and my
Right.
husband do that. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
he doesn't sit out in the deck. He goes and sits out in the deck, and I can just tell that he's on the phone and he's just not having a good time. This is not a good conversation. So what do I do? As every good Latina mom, I open up the window to hear what he's talking about because I
You
need
was
to
ear
know what's
hustling.
happening.
Yes.
I need to know. Nena, tú me tenías que ver a mí. Yo estaba así, literal. I'm like, what's happening? I hear what he's saying, and I'm like, ajá, yo sabía. And he confirmed everything that I thought. Like as soon as
Yep.
he came in the house, everything that I thought, he confirmed it in that conversation. And then I called him into the room, not saying that I have this information. I not one point
Right.
in time did I ever say I had this information. And then I kind of broke him down a little bit, got him to open up, and now I know the whole tea. So how I
Yeah,
how I
yeah.
am how I am as a mom right now, I try to keep the lines of communication open, and I
Hmm.
try to earn that trust and not break that, because it's so important for your kids to come to you and tell you everything. Like especially at this age. Once they get to be adults, I always say, I'm raising adults to be independent. I'm not just raising kids. I'm raising them to be independent, responsible, healthy adults. That's what I'm
Right.
raising. So the way that I can do that is by having healthy, responsible conversations that they'll be able to look back on and reflect on and say, I'm so happy my mom gave me this advice. Whether they
That's
take
right.
it or not, whether I even have to give them advice or not, I would much rather just be a listening ear. Maybe they don't want my advice at this very moment. I'll just be a listening ear. No problem. I will do that.
Mm-hmm.
Inside, I'm dying. I'm dying on the inside, but I'm
Of
going to be a
course.
listening ear because
Aw.
that's what they need from me at this time, you know? So that's the kind of parent that I am now. Even as when they were babies. Oh, Dios mío, qué alcahueta.
Ay, ay,
Dios
ay.
mío. And like, and don't get it twisted. Alcahueta doesn't mean that you don't discipline or that you don't
Yeah.
correct, because you still have to correct and discipline. You know, I believed in timeouts. I believed in getting a punishment and having your things taken
Of
away when
course.
you're not doing something right. You have to. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
You are not going to be your kid's friend all the time, but you definitely want to be a person that they confide in. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's who I am for my kids now.
So you have a lot of masculine energy in the household. So how do you
Oh
stay
my God, girl, you have no
in your
idea.
feminine energy?
Well, we are currently sitting in my beauty desk. This is
Yes.
my beauty slash all things work desk. So
Love
the way
it.
that I keep saying is truly being a girly girl, the girly girl that I've always been. Really, I have always loved makeup. Makeup is it's like my escape. It has always been like
Mm-hmm.
an outlet for me. Cooking is my creative. Makeup is my outlet.
Mm-hmm.
um I can sit down and do makeup just because, like, I don't even have to. I just because um
Right.
and as a professional, having been a professional makeup artist for 10 years before starting cooking Con Omi,
Yeah.
I I I still love it. It's nothing that has ever left me, you know, like. But that's really the way that I cope, is just being a girly girl.
I wanna talk about that transitional phase for you because to your point, you started out with makeup. And then all of a sudden the pandemic happens, the world shuts down, and now you make this transition. So what really stemmed, like what was it in your mind that said, okay, this is my next thing? Because I mean, I know the story, but I don't think a lot of people, because this story, I have so much respect for you for this story. Like it's so powerful and I want everyone to know.
Yeah, you know, I didn't I didn't sit down and make a plan and say I'm now going to cook and have a social media channel for just cooking. It was kind of like a step by step. It slowly transitioned, and then it spiraled, and before I knew it, I was a content creator, and I'm going, "Wait, what happened?" Like, who what?
Yeah.
During the pandemic, my husband had one of his knee replacements surgeries, and he was going to have both knees replaced. That 2020 was the first one, and then 2021 was going to be the second one. That had already been planned by the doctors. So in
Mm-hmm.
2020, I had my own makeup studio. I worked at Sephora. I was a education specialist, so I knew how to teach classes based on makeup. But I've
Okay.
always loved to teach. Teaching is like just something that I really like to do. And
Mm-hmm.
because makeup was such a fun thing for me to teach, I always try to make it really fun for the people who would come in and would try to get certified at Sephora. I was the person who certified them. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and I loved it. And when COVID comes, well, before COVID, excuse me, my husband has to have the surgery. So I had to take 6 weeks off of work to help my husband, just to
Right.
be with him, to make sure, he needed a caretaker. So I took time off of work. Lo and behold, here comes COVID. Now the whole world is shut down. Everything, we're like, what's going on? My studio is shut down. My weddings were like
Yeah.
non-existent. Everything
Yeah.
got canceled. And I'm going, what the heck are we supposed to do now? And the true extrovert that I am, I was just looking for a way to connect with the outside world. And I decided that I was going to show what I was actually doing, which was cooking. Now, I'm going to pause and rewind for a second. For the entirety of my marriage with my husband, our house has always been the house that people come to eat at. It's always
Okay.
the party house. It's always the house that people come to eat. We gather. I cook all the time, and people just already knew that. They used to call me the Puerto Rican Martha Stewart. Literally, like that's that's what my friends would call me when, for a long time.
Yes.
And so I was always cooking, and I started cooking on social media because I wanted to connect with the outside world and because I was going crazy. And I wasn't going to teach makeup because we're not going anywhere. And I
Mm-hmm.
really had I'm like, I'm not going to be wasting my makeup. So
Yeah, yeah.
I taught what I was doing. But at the time I was also going through a very financial hardship because my husband had been out of work due to his health. And so here is our income is gone. The world is shut down. We don't qualify for any type of assistance whatsoever because, quote unquote, I made too much. And
Right.
it was just insane. It was insane. And I remember the last $35 that I had to my name, I used to go and buy the food that I cooked on the very day that I turned on my camera for the first time and said, does anybody want to cook with me? And I did that on my beauty page. I did that on the
Mm-hmm.
stories of my beauty page. And then I was seeing my beauty page blowing up because people were trying to get recipes. And I'm like, wait a minute. COVID is only going to be before a little bit. I'm not going to keep cooking on this page because it's going to turn into a food page. Let me
Right.
open up a new page just for food. Para no mezclar la tinga con la gandinga. Let me just
Mm-hmm.
make a new page. And oh my gosh, the page blew up before I knew it. And then that was also the age of TikTok. Everybody was on TikTok. And in less than a couple of months, I had been on Despierta America. I had been on Guapa TV in Puerto Rico. And all virtual, all virtual.
I
Um,
love it.
it was just insanity. And it wasn't until, so get this, the world opens back up in what, June 2020? Like
Mm-hmm.
June-ish, July-ish. We
Yeah.
kind of opened back up. We opened up with restrictions. 2020. In 2021, my grandmother was very sick. And
Mm-hmm.
I kept telling her, Abuela, te voy a ver. I'm going to go see you, Grandma. I'm going to go see you. And she kept telling me, Nena, when you come here, I love your cooking videos. Me voy a pintar la bemba colorada. We're going to cook together. Because my grandmother would never leave the house without her bemba colorada. She would
Yeah.
always have some sort of a lipstick on every
Yes.
time. And she was 94 years old.
Wow.
And
Wow.
ella todavía bien fuertecita. And I would tell her, espérame, te voy a ver, te voy a ver. And I go and I set up a vacation of 10 days to go see my grandmother and to go spend it over there.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tell you 3 days after me being in Puerto Rico, I hadn't seen her yet because my aunt goes, tu abuelita está bien enfermita. She's very sick. At the hospital. We need you to go and donate blood. But you can't see her yet because they're not allowing anybody in yet in the unit that she was at. I said, está bien, I will 100%. I was all the way in the south of Puerto Rico. I was in Guayama. My
Mm-hmm.
family's in the northeast in Rio
Okay.
Grande. And I said, yo voy, I'll go and I'll donate blood. I remember getting ready, getting dressed, walking out the door. And before I could open the door, my aunt calls me and she's like, Omi, you don't need to go donate blood. Your grandmother has passed. And
Oh my God.
it didn't compute with me. Like I was on the phone, but it didn't
It
register.
didn't hit
I was
you.
like, no, no,
Yeah.
no, no. I said, no, 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 don't worry. I'm gonna go donate blood right now. I'm gonna go right now to
Yeah,
donate.
yeah.
She's like, Omi, you don't have to. She's passed away. I'm like, pero Titi, yo no la he visto. I haven't seen her. She can't. I have to go see her. She's like, you cannot see her. She passed away. She had to repeat it 3 times to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I I lost it. I lost it because that was my heart. When I tell you that woman, if there's one thing that I can say about my childhood was the only consistency with all the moving and all the things that I, having to grow up in a single mom household,
Mhm.
she was the only consistent thing. Her and my grandfather, mi abuelito
Yeah.
y ella were the only consistent things, and I could always count on things being the same and having the same experience every time I went there. So when that happened, it messed me up. And it
Mm.
also helped me to make that final decision of saying, I cannot continue to do something just because it's what I think I'm supposed to do. If this door is being opened for me to do cooking con Omi, then this is what I need to do. And I let go of makeup altogether. I let go of makeup in August of 2021. I let go of makeup altogether. And I said, I'm going to dedicate fully to cooking con Omi. And as soon as I said that, the very next year, that's when I got on the show with Gordon Ramsay and Next Level Chef.
I, before we get there, I just want to have a couple of questions. So you start this $35 to your name. You go to the supermarket, you start buying things, you turn on a camera. Now, did you have any social media background? Anybody kind of leading the way of like how you would make this transition, how you should display this on your page? Anything of no.
No,
She's like, no.
no, I knew nothing. Yo me fui al garete. I just did it. I just threw myself into it. Obviously, having had a makeup page, right? Like I did makeup and I had a makeup page where I used to
Right.
promote all of my makeup, my business in
Mm-hmm.
makeup. I would promote my studio and my clients and everything on this page. I just I was just posting. However, what kind of guided me was TikTok, because I
Okay.
noticed that on TikTok it was very short 1 minute videos and people were just snipping the video into very okay, and now you add boom, and now you add boom, and now you add this, and I'm like, I can do that. And I started playing around with it, and I'm like, I could do that. So I started taking the stories on my beauty page and I started piling them together to make the 1 minute video
Ah,
to
okay.
post on TikTok. But it was
Mm-hmm.
everything that I was doing on my Instagram. I was just putting them together. I did have some knowledge on how to edit and stuff because of just playing around with it with my makeup, in my makeup page. But that was it. And then everything else just kind of self-taught, and I wasn't afraid to ask if I ever like needed help, or if I was in doubt of something. I would reach out to other influencers and be like, "Hey, I love what you do. I noticed that you also do this. Do you know how to figure this out?" And I would just
Mm-hmm.
ask. I'm like, this, dicen que el que no llora no mama.
Yep.
I'm like, I'm
Yep.
gonna ask.
So now you're turning this into a business, not having like really the background of it. So how do you know what to charge, what rates look like, who to pitch to? Because all of these things were kind of coming organically to you as well.
Yes.
And then you
I
get on the
remember
show.
my very first ever brand content, brand partnership. I got offered $500 and I thought this was the world. I'm like, they're giving me $500 to do a video? Like, that's a lot. Girl, I didn't even know that I was selling myself short. I was selling myself so short, like so short. And
Yeah.
I think it was 2021, in January of 2021. I had somebody, mis DMs were always explotado. Yo tenía los DMs siempre llenos, full. I would have to go through them every single time because I would never know who was watching. You just never know who's watching. And I had who is still my manager now reach out to me on via DM and said, "Your videos have blessed me. I am so
Um,
in love with what you do for you and your community, and I really want to see you win, and I would love to manage you. And that was that. And ever since then, he started managing me, and obviously, a lot of things come to me naturally, just like emails always come to me, and then I would just shift them his way and be like, help me figure this out because I didn't know what I was doing. And I remember the very first time back then in 2021, I went from a $500 video to, for one brand to a my first $5,000 video. And I said, what? Like, yo quería llorar. I wanted to cry.
wow.
I'm like, what are you talking about? Because, obviously it's different for everyone with engagement and, everything is different for all the numbers are different for everybody, which is always a hard conversation to have because even though we might do the same thing, the numbers might not be the same. And so our pay is not going to be the same. But
Correct.
when I got that for the first time, I think it was late 2021. I didn't really
Mm-hmm.
see a good, like a decent paycheck until late 2021.
Now, prior to that, how much money were you investing into yourself prior to getting that big check? Like, how much did it
I mean,
actually cost you versus what you actually gained for it?
it didn't cost me anything because I was using my cell phone. I was literally using my cell phone to do everything.
Yes.
Nobody, till this day, I still use my cell phone. People don't know this.
Wow.
I just figured out a way to do it better. That's all it is.
Right.
But I'm like, I'm
Right.
still a one man show. Don't get it twisted. I'm still a one man show. I just figured out lighting. I figured out how to record better and how to edit better, but it's just still me. I have my manager, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
I have an agent now, thank God. But
Yes.
everything else, it falls on me. It's still me creating the content. It's funny. Last, oh my God, when was it? When March? February? I can't even remember. Ay, Dios mío. When I went to LA to go do the commercial, I went to
Mm-hmm.
LA to go do the commercial for Simply Orange Juice. And I walked into this room, and it's a production room. It's a whole production. There is a cameraman over there, over here, over there. Somebody's miking me up. Somebody's in front of the screen and this and that. They had people putting plates in front of me, and I'm like, I can grab the plate. Like, you don't gotta help me. Oh, okay. All right. I'm like, I do all of this at home by myself, and
Right.
y'all got 25 people here. And that right there was everything that I needed to validate the fact that what I do is worth something.
Mm.
That what I do, I'm not gonna negotiate with these brands about my price tag. If you want me, it's gonna come with my price tag.
Mm.
Because what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
it takes 25 people, and it took 25 people in that room to do.
That's a gem. That's a real gem. And I hope that does not go over people's heads, whoever's listening to this, because that is a real gem. And I'm always telling people like work produces work. Like as long as you are putting in that work, like people are like, well, I'm not getting this deal, or how do I get people to find me? I'm like, you actually have to just start. You really just have to put out the work in order for you to get work. And people even ask me all the time, like, well, how do I get sponsors? And I'm like, you have to produce something. Like, this is how this all works. Like, once you turn on that camera, everything starts coming to you. You never have to go to it anymore. And that
No.
is so true for you. And I love, like, girl, I just got goosebumps with that because that's a real bar. Like, seriously, that's so
Yeah.
dope.
Yeah, and
That's so
and I
dope.
and I and I love being able to stay true to myself, to who I am, to my community, still be a representation to my community, of my
Absolutely.
community,
Yep. Yep.
and still understand my worth, and not take it for granted that I'm not here all by myself. I have a whole backpack of people to carry with me
Yep.
in order for us to be well represented and to say, no, this is what our value is. We are valuable. We add value to you. When the show happened and the episodes started to happen, I'm going to show you something.
Tell me.
I took this book with me to London. We recorded that show in London. This is
Mm-hmm.
Positivity is Powerful. And every day that I would cook, I would write what happened. I would write what happened,
Wow.
how it happened, what day it happened, what we cooked. I wrote down everything. And before I knew it, when I came back home and I opened up this book, I was like, I won 5 challenges. I won 5 challenges. I'm like, what am I gonna do with that? Like, I have to highlight that. And I'm like, I was an underdog. No, I wasn't supposed to get that far. I wasn't supposed to be a semi-finalist. That wasn't what was supposed to happen because I don't have any culinary background. I was like, how am I going to highlight this for my community? We have to celebrate it. How are we going to celebrate it? Let's have a watch party. Let's have a watch party for every time I won a challenge. My manager thought I was crazy. He's like, how are you going to make this happen? I said, I don't know, but we're going to make it happen somehow. I'm like, I've made enough connections in 2021 and 2020, 2021 and 2022 that in 2023 we're going to have these watch parties, and you better believe that I'm going to go to every city that my followers are at, with the most followers for the most part. And we're going to make this happen. I started here in Rhode Island. The first party was here in Rhode Island. Second party was in New York. Third party in Orlando. Then
Mm-hmm.
Puerto Rico, then Chicago. And in every
Love
time,
that.
in every city, I would do I would do all three. I would do media, in radio, TV, and in person. I would literally make sure that all of those were covered. Like, I invested. I invested in a PR team. I was like, I need a team. I know it's going to be expensive, but it's only going to be for this limited time, but I need to maximize this opportunity because this doesn't
Mm-hmm.
happen to us all the time. And I don't want to be the last Puerto Rican up in here. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna get more people like me up in here. Like, there's
That's
gonna be
right.
more of us here.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as these parties were over, the only thing that I got back, and it was worth every single moment of it, was from Mr. Ramsay himself, who said, girl, every time I see you, you're everywhere. What are you
Mm.
doing? Like, that's all I needed to hear, sir.
That's
Thank you so
real.
much. Like,
That
that's
is
all I
so
needed to
real.
hear. Thank you so much. But every single watch party, what did it add? It added value to having a Latino in a Latina in
Mm-hmm.
in a place such as Next Level Chef. It added value to our community, to the people that, mommy, just recently, I'm so proud to say that I finally have gotten my first book deal. And like,
Yes.
I'm about to have my first book.
Period.
But do you have any idea how many times I got told no by these big book editors who said they didn't see a need for another Puerto Rican cookbook?
Mm.
Yeah, we're gonna pass. We don't really see a need for a Puerto Rican cookbook. But you see a need for another Italian cookbook? You see
Right.
a need for another Mexican cookbook? But
That
you
part.
don't see a need for another Puerto Rican cookbook. Give me a break. What are we really talking about here? And so
Mm-hmm.
I don't accept it. I don't accept it. I'm like, I know that we can do better. I know we can have better. And when I tell you I got that book deal and I thought I was going to pass out, I was
Oh
going to
my.
pass out because having understanding that just because you get a no, the first, the second, the third, the fourth, I got 11 no's.
Mm.
11 no's before I got that one yes.
Talk about it. And that's what I tell people all the time. Like, even with the podcast, like, I'm not gonna lie, like I play my podcast, like I go to the salon up the block and I literally turn it on their TV. Like, because people think like I have to go up, but you really have to start networking across. Like, who is next to you? So for me, I'll go to the barbershop and I'll play a Growing Up Latina episode. I'll go to the salon, I'll go to my bodega and I have them play it. Like, no, this is real. It's really happening and it's happening within our community. You don't have to watch whatever you think the representative is for us. Like, we're right here, you know? And I think that's so powerful that you
Yeah.
say that, because oftentimes when people hear the word no, they get very discouraged. And then it starts to like diminish this confidence that maybe they thought they had. And now they're like, oh, I don't want to ask anymore. Or, you know, and I always say like closed mouths don't get fed.
No, no,
You have
no.
to ask.
Yeah.
Like I tell my team all the time, like, they'll be like, Allie, we heard a no. I'm like, we're going to hear 99 more no's. Like,
And
I don't care
I
how many
always,
no's.
and I know you've heard this before, even, when people reach out to me and they're like, Omi, but this is not happening. I wish it was happening like it happened to you, or like, something to that effect.
Right.
I always say, I'm like, do not compare my chapter 20 to your chapter 1. Don't.
Mm.
You can't. You just can't. My chapter 20, do you have any idea what it took to get over here? How long it took to get over here? I'm like, I made so many mistakes before I got over here. We're over here now, but it took a minute. Y unos trompones y golpes y de todo,
Mm-hmm.
tropezones y de todo. I'm like, this is your chapter 1 right now. Live in it. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay. It's all right. And when we start comparing, oh, but I want to be here and can't do that, because your journey, your walk, your path is going to be unique to you. If somebody has said to me, Omi, you're going to be an influencer this way and this is how it's going to happen, I would have laughed in their face, because I would have never thought that it was going to happen this way. Not
Mm-hmm.
to say that it was accidental, because there's nothing that happens to us that's an accident. It's already been laid out for us. It's
That's
already been
right.
written. It's already been decided. We just have to make sure that when the moment happens, we're obedient and we walk through that door, and that's it.
Let me ask you, what would you say would be like maybe like three pillars of success for someone who's like just starting out? I mean, you didn't have the background of like this culinary education or experience, but you still went for it. Like, what about the person who doesn't have it either, but they're really shy? Like you, at least you took the chance, but someone that's like, they don't even know where to begin. At least you had some beauty experience to go, you know, and kind of source your like camera expertise, even though you was shooting on your phone, but someone who has zero experience in this industry but wants to be a part of it.
Study your craft. Study your craft. YouTube University is free.
Hello.
TikTok University is free until they decide to ban it. But for now, study the craft. I'm telling you, there is so much information out there. And
Yep.
not only that, if you truly, truly are serious about it and you don't know where to start by reaching out to somebody who's doing what you're trying to reach. Reach out to
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's doing at the level that you're trying to get at, right? Like, I absolutely freaking love Tabitha Brown. That
Oh,
woman does
she's
no wrong
amazing.
in my eyes. She does no wrong in my book. I only wish I would have followed her back in 2017 when she first started. But in 2020, when this woman came onto the scene of TikTok and she started doing what she was doing, and I can see my reflection in her, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, bet.
Mm-hmm.
The way that her community supports her, the way that she has grown and has become such a beautiful representation of how it's supposed to be done. That's her chapter 45. You know what I mean? Like, she's been doing this since 2017.
Yeah.
Her journey was different, and it didn't really take off till 2020.
Mhm.
If somebody looks at Tabitha Brown, they're like, all right, she came in on TikTok during the pandemic and she took off. No, she's been
No.
working at this since 2017.
Mhm.
So it's not an overnight thing. Now you're seeing the fruits of her labor. Now you're seeing the reaping that she's reaping the harvest. But that
Yes.
took some time. For me, my journey for my family, es ahora que yo that I'm reaping my harvest. Es ahora
Yeah.
that I'm walking in my path and feeling confident and feel like I can be of help to somebody else. Because
Mhm.
and even when I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't know if I could be of somebody help to somebody else, whatever little information I had, I made sure to pass it along because eso a mí no me cuesta nada. That
Mhm.
doesn't cost me a dime. Like that to me is empowering your community, empowering others. There's no cost in that. And even whether or not somebody pays you back or and I say that in quotation marks because I'm like, no, you're never, if you do it for that reason, for somebody to pay you back or for, oh, if I do it now, they'll do for me later. Don't do it for that reason. Just do it because it's the right thing to do and do it because at some point in time, you're going to reap the harvest of that. At some point in time, that's going to come right back to you and it's going to multiply 100-fold. That's the reason why you
Mhm.
do it. So I love stories like that. I love stories of people who have been at it for so long and then you could just see them immediately blow up so at some point in time and you're like, "Yes. Yes." So my advice would be to study the craft,
Yes.
educate yourself with as much as you can wherever
Mhm.
you can and don't be afraid to reach out. Do not be afraid to reach out to those who you want to emulate and look up to.
I love that. And I always say too, I'm just gonna add in like consistency is a huge part of this game. You know,
Yes.
most people give up. Like, thank God you didn't give up on the first no because it took you 11 no's to now get this book deal. Congratulations on that because imagínate if you would have gave up. Tell me.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you would have
And
given
there's
up, it
so
would have
much
been
more to
over.
that story. There's so much more to that story, but I like we're gonna have to write another book about that.
Oh my God. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure there's so much ins and outs with that. Um, what what is something that's on your bucket list? Because I mean, you've accomplished so much. So what is something that you are wanting to accomplish and just go after?
I really would love I would really love a spot on some sort of a network that would have me and have my own show. Um I've always dreamt of this idea of like I used to love the Ellen show. I mean, loved it. I loved the joy that it used to bring to people. I loved the information that it used to bring to people. But I'm like, how come we don't have that for Latinas? I'm like, where's that at for us Latinos? Like, we would love that because we used to
Exactly.
have
You're
something
right.
like it called Don Francisco Sábado Gigante,
Yes.
but we don't have it anymore. And we obviously we can't do it for 5 hours. But I would love to do it in the now. What would that look like
Yeah.
in the now? And I would love to be the one that heads that spearheads that.
Yes, you must. I'm here for that. I absolutely love that. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm sending you positive
yeah.
energy your way. Um, who is someone that you would want to work with?
Oh my gosh. Can I tell you something that I've always I've always rooted for the little guy. So whenever oh, the underdog, not the little guy, the underdog.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
whenever I think of who I want to work with, I want to work with somebody whose name should be bigger. Whose name, like, I'm like, how come you're not blowing up yet? Like, if I'm
Right.
looking at you and your content is like insane, the world should know about you. And I'm like, and I
Facts.
don't have the world. I only have, my 428,000 followers on Instagram. But like, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I would love to work with people like that who deserve a spotlight and who deserve for their work to be seen and known and heard, that's usually who I go for. And as I said earlier, I'm all about empowerment and being able to highlight those in our community who deserve that moment, you know?
I love it. Yo, I can literally talk to you forever, by the way. I can talk to you forever. I love your energy. I love your entire vibe. I love that you are just like this go-getter. And I really, um, I don't know, I really resonate with people's stories of like when they didn't give up, you know? Like when someone just doesn't give up and has that sort of resilience, I'm always like just attracted to that because I feel like, yes, like that's what we need more of. We need people that don't give up. So
Yeah.
shout out to you for that. Um,
Thank you.
I do want to go into my rapid fire questions.
Okay,
All right,
here we go.
so here we go. Tell me you're Latina without telling me you're Latina.
Big Vaporú.
Yes, that's a major one for us. What is one thing you need in the morning?
Cafecito.
Me too.
I literally will turn into Godzilla without it. And I'm not even like, you can talk. I have had friendships since I was 13 years old. And every single one of them will tell you, give Omi her coffee in the morning. Every one of them.
Yes, yes, I'm the same way. What is your favorite Latin dish?
Arroz blanco con habichuelas y chuletas fritas. Y unos
Yes,
maduritos por el lado con un aguacatito.
yes. Damn, I'm coming to your house. What? If you can have, oh, I'm gonna customize this for you, but if you can have the Last Supper with three Latinas, dead or alive, who would they be? And then to add to
Mm.
that, what are we eating here? What are you cooking? What are we
Oh my
making?
gosh. Okay, Celia Cruz,
100%.
eh, Sotomayor,
Ah,
and I'm sorry, but I have to. I know she's going through a whole lot right now, but J Lo.
it's
I
so
have
funny.
to.
I know. No, I'm still a J Lo girl. I'm
I
like,
know
yes,
she's
J
going
Lo.
through a lot right now. I know she's going through a lot, but I'm sorry. You don't get to where she's at without having the right mindset, without having a winning mentality. And there's certain questions I would ask. That's all. May we vibe or not? I don't know. I still would ask the questions.
Right, right.
However, what would we have? Ay, yo sería feliz con una serenata de bacalao,
Mm,
con viandita, con pana, con yautía. Y
yes.
el bacalao tiene que estar bien, pero bien suavecito, con mucho vinagre y el aguacatito no puede
Yes.
faltar.
Damn, I'm joining that supper. What is this chapter of your life called?
This chapter of my life, this chapter of my life, I would call it Talk to Me Nice.
Oh, yes.
Talk to me nice.
Period. I
Come
love that.
correct. Come
Period.
correct.
I
I
love that.
we take no less, than what we deserve over here.
Love that. What does it mean to you to be Latina?
Ah, it's everything. To be Latina is to have the best of every world. Like we have so much culture and we have so much love and so much passion for what we do. We love deep. We hurt deep. We feel everything around us. It is everything. Being a Latina means being sexy. It means being powerful. It means being a badass. Like being a Latina
Yes.
is everything.
Okay, and finish this sentence. Growing up Latina is.
Growing up Latina is the only way I'll ever have it.
Yes.
If I have 100 lifetimes, I will grow up Latina every time.
Ah, I love you so much. Thank you so much for coming on Growing Up Latina. let everybody know where they can find you, your socials, and all that good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. You can find me on Cooking Con Omi everywhere. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I think I got what do I have? I got an Amazon storefront now, girl.
Yes. Plug
Find
it
me
in.
everywhere. Cooking Con Omi.
Cooking Con Omi. I love you so much. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.